the BBC have just released their 96 highest earners, showing only 1/3 of them are women, and the top 7 are all men.
Yeah.
What do we think?
Well, I think this is a very big call out, seeing as Chris Evans, for example, I believe, isn't he the highest paid?
Certainly is, yeah. Or one of them, if not.
One of the top 3, I know that. But what does he actually do? He hosts a radio show and does Top Gear, and he's on like 2.2 million.
Yeah.
And the only female to make it into the top 10 is...
There's 3 females in the top 10. And...
The highest paid one's the one from Strictly, isn't it?
Oh, is it? What's her name?
The black-haired one. Holly, is it Holly Willoughby, or is that the other one?
Holly Willoughby's blonde.
Yeah, it's the other one then.
The other one.
Yeah, the other one. I can't remember her name.
Oh, Claudia Winkleman.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's the highest paid female.
Yeah, she probably is, to be fair. She's in quite a few things, actually.
Yeah. Like, I must admit, I'm quite shocked that the BBC released it, knowing that they get this sexist thing.
See, but that's the question, though. Is it actually sexist? Because, let's be fair, while there are people like Claudia Winkleman and things like that, the shows that she's on are nowhere near as popular as things like Top Gear or Chris Evans' radio show. They're not as popular, so of course she's not going to get paid as much. So is it actually sexist, or is it just a coincidence?
You could say that, but how often do you see people actually mention about Top Gear on Twitter and Strictly? Strictly's a bigger thing.
Strictly is a bigger thing on Twitter, yeah.
I think Strictly's the bigger thing overall, because I think Top Gear is shit now. I'm going to be completely honest. Don't know if I'm meant to be PG, but I think Top Gear's crap.
Doesn't matter. I'm not going to worry about being PG.
Because I honestly think Top Gear's now terrible.
I'm honest, I weren't too big a fan of Top Gear in the first place. But
I wasn't either, but it's just... Chris Evans, you can tell he has no interest in cars. It's quite obvious. Like, he sits there and he talks about a gear stick, and it's like, well, it's a gear stick.
Well, yeah, it is a gear stick.
Yeah, it's a gear stick. I don't really want to know how smooth it feels,
Oh, God.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I'll tell you one main thing about the BBC that is extremely popular, though. Doctor Who.
Dude.
And Doctor Who is now female. So, can we expect to see this female climbing up the ranks? I can't remember what her name is.
I don't.
All I know is she was in Broadchurch.
Honestly. She was in Broadchurch. She was in another thing as well, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was. It's Jodie Whittaker.
Yeah, because I'm a really big Doctor Who fan. This.
So I hear.
I've watched it for years and years.
Okay.
And I was sat there because my dad's back from Japan at the moment, and obviously it was on Sunday that it was released. Not date marking the video, but
it's cool. It should be recent.
And we were sat there, and like obviously it was just after Wimbledon, wasn't it? The release of the name.
I believe so. Yeah.
My dad was like, "Oh, who do you think it's going to be?" And I went, "No idea, but it's going to be a female." And my dad honestly had no idea why I thought that, because obviously he's in Japan, he can't watch Doctor Who. But they set it up so perfectly, because the last 2 episodes, they had Missy and the Master, and Missy is the next the next regeneration of the Master.
Right.
And
okay.
All the way through those 2 episodes, all you'd heard really was the Master going, "Is that really what I'm going to become?" And it was so obvious. It was setting up for the Doctor to be a female. Yeah, I think it's definitely a good thing, because I think they needed a change.
Okay.
I think they needed something like that because, I don't know, because a lot of people were really sceptical when Peter Capaldi became the Doctor because he wasn't young, but then Doctor Who started with older people playing the roles. So I think, I don't know, I think Doctor Who's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be better. I'm confused about how they're going to do the whole, because he always has a companion, and the companion's normally a female. So I'm interested to see if they have a male companion now.
That's an interesting point, actually. Is it now going to be a male companion?
Yeah. I'm interested to see what's going to happen now. I think it'll be really cool. But I'm excited. I'm not going to lie. I'm looking forward to Doctor Who. I always do, but
Awesome.
it's going to be something pretty cool. I'm excited for it.
So you don't think that because Doctor Who's been male this whole time, that now suddenly having Doctor Who as a female, you don't think that would change anything?
Well, I think it depends. I think a lot of the older viewers may not accept it because it's been Doctor Who for so long as a male. I was expecting a lot more of a bigger media uproar about it being a female, but I think a lot of the viewers now are kind of our age, because they changed Doctor Who from being a child's program a couple of years ago because the new director came in and he's made it a lot more,
a lot darker.
Gory. A lot. There we go. Yeah, a lot darker.
Okay.
And I think that's now suited for my age, our age group, and we're a lot more acceptance now with gender equality and shit. So I think they've waited till the right time.
Right.
And I believe they're at not their lowest of all time, but they're at a pretty low viewing at the moment.
I did hear it's gone down a bit. I heard Peter Capaldi was not too popular.
Yeah, but that was because a lot of people wanted the younger Doctors back. So that's why I'm a bit shocked it's been so accepted that now it's a female. But I don't know.
So would you say that?
I like it.
So considering that, would you say that the move to being a female Doctor, would you say that that could possibly just be a publicity stunt? In the sense that the BBC are saying, oh, the ratings are going down. If we throw a female into the mix, people are going to go, wow, they're so gender equality fulfilled that I would now start watching Doctor Who. Or do you think it's just that Jodie Whittaker would be a really good Doctor Who? Is it a publicity stunt or is it a genuine thing?
Well, I think it's very difficult because obviously Broadchurch has David Tennant in as well.
Yes.
So obviously they've thought very closely about who they've picked.
Yeah.
To know that she's obviously worked with David Tennant, and I'm assuming she knows a bit about playing as Doctor Who beforehand. I reckon they've picked the right person for the job. Not gonna sugarcoat that. They've definitely picked the right person, but I don't know if it was a publicity stunt or if it was generally them thinking, you know what, I think it's time. Because I know it's something they've been considering for a long, long time. And the second that Missy came in, she's been about now for 2-3 seasons. And I think the second that came in, they were edging towards... I think it's been something they've been considering for a while now. And I think that was the stepping stone to seeing what people would think of the Master becoming a female.
Right.
I think they've done it well to kind of integrate it and not just do a sudden change, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, I see your point.
They've definitely thought it through pretty well.
Yeah.
But if it's just a publicity stunt or if it's them just wanting a change, I'm not sure. But I think they've made the right choice. I think it's a good move in the future for Doctor Who, at least.
It's a good move, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's a very good move.
All right, cool.
The only thing that I'm going to be very skeptical about, which with Bill being their companion in last season, there was a few moments because she was half cast. Well, I'm not sure if that's how you're allowed to call them now. I think half cast is the technical term you're allowed to say.
I'm not too sure, to be fair, but we'll go with it. Apologies if anyone is offended, but we will correct ourselves for the next time.
Basically, she was basically half black, half white, right? And they did a few Victorian-aged episodes, and they did not forget that obviously blacks were, slave trade and shit. Obviously that wasn't Victorian times, but you get what I mean. There was the whole racism thing going on. So I'm interested to see what it'll be like if they go really far in the past and with the female rights.
Okay.
I'm interested to see if they'll forget about that or if it'll be a very smart thing they play. I think it'd be really cool because obviously females are seen as weaker in a lot of the medieval times. So I'm interested to see what will happen and what I think it'll be very good. It's hard to explain.
No, I get what you mean. I think it's an interesting point you're raising, but the thing that I'm considering is that obviously the Doctor's got people that they know from. See, we can't say the Doctor got people that he knows now. Is it she?
The Doctor knows.
There is people that the Doctor knows. There you go. From the past, that now when this female doctor goes to visit them, are they going to know who they are? So
Well, I
obviously,
think it's going to be pretty
like
self-explanatory. They know the face changes.
yes, but
So
the gender has never changed. So
well,
now I'm not a big Doctor Who fan, so I don't really know. I only watched it when David Tennant was Doctor Who. I'll be honest.
David Tennant was amazing.
He was a very good Doctor Who. Well, I say that I didn't watch any others, so I don't actually know. But obviously, when the Doctor now goes and visits a friend from the past, is there going to be reference to it? Is it going to say, "Oh, what's it like being female?" Like, or does it not register? Like, does the Doctor physically know I used to be male and now I have regenerated female?
Oh,
is it a new
yes.
experience? Like,
They
is there gonna
know.
is there gonna have to be jokes now? Like, depending, like, oh well, I've never had boobs before. Like, how does this then work? But then
That
making
was actually something that was brought up a lot with the Master seeing the future regeneration of himself, Missy.
Oh,
Now,
okay,
I know,
okay.
I'm not
Tell me
trying to spoil the last episode, but basically the Master shoots Missy and they both die. So basically, the Master kills his future self.
Right. Okay.
Which I think was fucking hysterical, to be honest. What a way to go, you kill your future self. But I thought it was... it's difficult to explain. I know it's a very good... Fuck. There was a lot of jokes to the fact that he used to be a female, and I think they thought it out well by setting that up before the Doctor becomes a female.
Right, okay.
And Missy was aware, like, a lot of people are saying, no, she doesn't remember herself as a male, but that was her faking it because she knows that he eventually kills her.
Okay.
So she didn't want to give it away.
Yeah.
Because she knows that that's how it has to go down. So
Right.
I reckon that she knew that she's turned into a male because she mentions things that she remembers. So they're aware of it, but I think the first few episodes are going to be a lot of like little minor jokes, a few little things like, "Oh, I've never had tits before," sort of thing,
Yeah.
I think because the first episode of a new Doctor mostly is the Doctor trying to adjust. I'm nearly saying him. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
The Doctor
See,
is trying to
it's
adjust
interesting,
to the
right?
new body. And finding a new style and things like that.
So is
So
it
it's
is
gonna
it
be
just
different.
the body that regenerates, or is it the mind that regenerates as well, or is
The
it
mind never regens.
so it's the
always
same brain in
the
different bodies?
Yeah.
Okay. So
intriguing.
in terms of sexuality, then is this new Doctor going to be a lesbian? Because
See,
in
that's an
previous Doctor Who's, obviously the Doctor has been male and the Doctor has been interested in females, making
you
the
could
Doctor
say
a
that, but-
straight character. But if it's the same brain, then the Doctor is surely interested in females. So now that the Doctor is female, do we have a lesbian Doctor Who?
Well, there's 2 points coming from this, really. The Doctor's old companion, Bill, that died, was actually a lesbian, and she was half-caste.
Okay. Also, I've been having a look, and I believe it's mixed ethnicity, not
Mixed
half-caste.
ethnicity. Sorry.
We
Sorry.
apologise. We didn't know. Carry on.
But then also, the whole thing about the last series was the Doctor was trying to get over the passing of his wife.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, the Doctor had a wife. It's difficult to explain, but basically, because of the way the timelines went,
Right.
every time that when they first met, the Doctor knew nothing about her, but then she knew everything about him, and it slowly went the opposite way. So when she died, the Doctor knew everything, and she could barely remember the Doctor. So
Right,
the last
okay.
time that they met, the Doctor basically... The last time they met, she barely knew anything about the Doctor, but the Doctor knew everything about her. So the whole of the last season was really him trying to get over the passing of his wife.
Okay.
And that was mainly what the Christmas special last year was about. So if it's going to mean anything, I don't really know if it's going to affect... It's difficult, because I don't think it's going to make a difference because he's had a passing of a wife, so I don't really think he's going to hit on any girls.
Okay. So
Oh,
you're
she,
saying
sorry.
yes. Okay. So you're saying that because she will be recovering from the passing of the wife, she won't be interested in new partners?
Well, I don't know. There's a reason why he's always had a female companion. We don't know it, but I think that was just for gender, just to
to
make sure that it's not
make
an
it
all-male
even
show.
and mix it up type thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And from what I've seen,
know.
having a female companion has always been quite interesting because obviously,
There's
biologically,
always been that love-hate
male and
relationship,
female
right?
brains work differently. So you've
Yeah.
always had the different sides of thing. You've got, the doctor. Well, I'm talking from David Tennant here, which I believe it was Catherine Tate was the.
Well, he had multiple companions.
Yeah,
He had,
Catherine Tate and
had
Billy
Rose,
Piper, I believe. There was someone else as well.
Billy Piper, and there was the mixed ethnicity person.
There was. Don't remember her name or her character name or anything. She was on Blue Peter, I think.
Fine, I don't remember her name.
We know who we're talking about, but there was always quite like an interesting thing because the Doctor was basically always like, oh well, to stop the bad guy we need to blow up this planet. But then the female companion was like, yeah, but think of all the people that are going to die, and that's naturally, like, biologically, that's the way human brains work. Females are biologically more empathetic. So
believe it or not,
what?
In the most recent series, sorry, I'm just looking at the So
in the most recent series,
a lot of the things were really a lot more along the Martha Jones. There we go.
Oh yeah.
But basically, a lot of the newer episodes of the Doctor being a lot more along the lines of, I don't want to blow up the planet, I want to save lives, I can't do this. And the companion's been more like, not gonna lie, we'll die.
Now, could that possibly be a
slowly
a slow change towards becoming female?
Yeah, that's what I think it is.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of I think they've played it very well, and I think they've had this plan for a couple of years now to slowly turn it into being a female.
Possibly.
And I reckon that's what Peter Capaldi was kind of used for. Not that he was used, but I reckon the contract, it was like, you're going to do 3 seasons, you're going to be used as a stepping stone towards becoming a female Doctor. But they wouldn't have told him that. They'd be like, you're going to be the change in Doctor Who, you're going to be different, you're going to get a lot of shit for it, but we don't care, we're writing a story, sort of thing.
Well, yeah.
But no, I think it was very, very smart.
Awesome.
They've done it.
So, on the term of, like, stepping stones, moving into changing things and such of similar accounts, what do we think is this gonna show in more media? So now that we've got Doctor Who, which is a constant male figure, change into a female, can we expect similar changes from things like James Bond, do you believe? Is the next Bond gonna be a female?
See, as much as I'd like to say it's possible, I think James Bond I think it'll be impossible to turn it to a female. Not in a sexist term, but he's known as, that guy that always picks up girls and he bashes a new girl every film. And you know what I mean? Like, I don't really think it's going to be, because not saying that it is easier for a female, really, and you just walk in, show a pair of tits, and they fuck you.
Good God.
But, like, I think it'll be difficult to try and get the same sort of swagger out of a female James Bond. And it's called James. I don't know a female called James.
No, in fairness, I quite agree. I would definitely say that the character of James Bond is quite different to the character of Doctor Who, in the sense of the point of Doctor Who is he's meant to be like an almost omniscient being. He's not really meant to be or she is not really meant to be like fully human. That's kind of the way I saw Doctor Who.
2 hearts.
Well,
generates 12 times. But
like I said, I don't.
13th one because
Like I said, I don't really know much about Doctor Who, but the way I kind of see it is the Doctor isn't meant to be like grounded as human, and that's why you get like the regeneration and things like that. However, for James Bond is meant to be, I mean, he was created in like the 20s or something. Like, he is meant to be what we would call now stereotypical white guy from the 20s. In the sense that he's meant to be a bit of a player, he's meant to be a bit of an arsehole,
And he's meant to be
He's
a bit more.
he's
That
meant to
hard
be a
guy
bit of
that'll
a
beat the shit out of
racist.
somebody in a bar, yeah.
Yeah, Sean Connery's James Bond was possibly one of the most sexist James Bonds there's ever been. He was borderline rapist. So I feel like if we then take that idea of James Bond and kind of morph him either into a female, it would drastically change the character. Whereas obviously with Doctor Who becoming female, it doesn't change that much. There's still a change, but it's not as much of a change.
What about a black Doctor Who or a black James Bond?
Now, equally, I personally would say a black Doctor Who wouldn't change anything. Like, if you can make Doctor Who female, of course you can have a black Doctor Who easily.
Black, yeah.
It really doesn't change anything. I think that, especially considering what we were just saying, that Doctor Who isn't really human. I think the ethnicity of Doctor Who really doesn't matter.
I'm just interested to see.
I'd be interested for an Asian Doctor Who. Like, it wouldn't matter. The Doctor can essentially be whoever. But obviously then when you start throwing something like James Bond in there, it does dramatically change it. Like, one of the key things about James Bond is that he works for Her Majesty's Royal Services and tends to go off into foreign unknown lands, essentially, to perform missions. Now, one key thing that I've seen throughout James Bond films, in terms of a director's perspective, is you always see, literally go watch any James Bond film and you'll see it, he always tends to go to, normally like African countries or something like that, and there is always a shot of a crowd of black people and a tall white James Bond just standing in the middle. He's meant to be different. He's meant to be deliberately stand out in a crowd because it's James Bond. That's why he always wears a suit. That's why he's able to sit at a poker table with other white people holding a martini and your eyes are still drawn to him. He's meant to look classically different. And so I would argue that changing that and making James Bond a female would totally change the character, like to the point where it would almost need to be a new series. Like, you'd have to stop making the James Bond collection 007 and bring out 008 as a female. Like, it's a totally different character. But I would also argue that the same principles lie if you were to make James Bond black, because obviously one of the key things is that you've got a white guy going from Her Majesty's Royal Services into, say, Nigeria, and he stands out in a crowd. But if you make that character black, that director's idea, where in every film you've got this crowd of people and James Bond is the only white person, suddenly that doesn't happen. Now, if you wanted to keep that, you then have to start looking at things like, well, you then have to start sending James Bond to places like Denmark, or something like that, and have him as a one black guy in a crowd of white people. Now, while that same principle applies, the storylines, the storylines are then going to start weakening, because obviously one key thing with James Bond is that you're sending him into situations that are different and tricky to ones that he doesn't know, and in the politest of ways, whether James Bond is black or white, sending him to a country that is dominated by white people is not going to be that different from England. And so you lose that contrast for James Bond, where he's meant to go into different countries which have a completely different culture to England's, which speak different languages to England, yet somehow James Bond tends to know that language anyway, and things like that. If you start putting him in places like America, like, that's very similar to England, and so it kind of destroys one of the purposes of James Bond. Yeah. So I would argue that James Bond would need to remain a white male. That's my personal opinion. One thing that I think...
All of those are very good points.
Thank you. I think the only real thing that, if people wanted to make James Bond, more diverse, is possibly experiment with a gay James Bond. Because while I think that James Bond is meant to be your classic white guy who, hits on women and things like that, you could make him gay. And the reason I say that is because while while you've
It's not
got
really too much the story that's gone, though, is
no,
it?
the story remains the same. You've got a guy working for Her Majesty's Royal Services going into foreign countries that are totally different to the UK's and blowing a lot of stuff up, trying to stop terrorists, basically.
The only difference is that he kisses a guy halfway through, and when he wakes up in the morning, he has a guy next to him, not a female.
Exactly. You can still have James Bond be that like player that walks into bars and picks people up and shags them that night and things like that. The only difference is he'd be after males. You can still have that element of his characteristic, but just change the gender he's interested in, and it wouldn't change the character. You know, whether James Bond is after the tall, thin, blonde guy or the tall, thin, blonde girl, either way, he's still meant to be a bit of a slag that can walk into a bar, pick someone up and shag him that night. Doesn't really matter what gender.
HIV.
Yeah, basically. James Bond has to have HIV, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
like,
sexual disease.
yeah. That could be interesting. Have a gay James Bond, but rather than go fight terrorism, have him go fight AIDS.
To the clinic, yeah. James Bond's chlamydia experience.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you got Skyfall. You know,
walks in, goes towards the Queen. I have gonorrhea.
Yeah, James Bond, gonorrhea. What a good film.
Quantum of gonorrhea.
Quantum of gonorrhea. Casino chlamydia. Like.
Oh my god.
Okay, so on the same note of a possible black James Bond, because I know a lot of people want Idris Elba to be James Bond, but now in fairness, Idris Elba would be such a good James Bond. But
imagine Morgan Freeman as James Bond.
Morgan Freeman could not be James Bond. He is too peaceful.
Imagine it.
Morgan Freeman would be a good M. You know, James Bond's boss at MI5 or MI6, whatever it is.
Amazing,
Morgan Freeman would be amazing as that, because I believe it was Dame Judi Dench. They are female. But no, I believe, because she was amazing at that. And I don't want to ruin anything, but I believe she's now dead.
She died. She died in
Dame Judi Dench
Skyfall.
Isn't dead. Just clarify, guys. Don't get scared. She's still alive. We're okay.
She died
but
in Skyfall.
M died. Yeah.
I haven't seen the
new one. Is it Scepter or Skepta or something?
Yeah, I haven't seen Spectre.
Spectre, that's it. No, I haven't seen that either. But yeah, no, Morgan Freeman would be a really good like replacement for like a role model for James Bond. That would be really good. But obviously, I personally don't think Idris Elba should be James Bond, because I don't think a black James Bond would work. On the note of that, in terms of black characters, you know, being like a prominent thing, because obviously we had the thing with the Oscars recently about I say recently, it was like last year, but the Oscars being predominantly white and there not being a lot of black people nominated. What do you think on that? I personally would say that, you know, it's not racist, because if I think back to films that have recently came out, and I'm talking like blockbuster films, where have all the black people been? I can't think of a film where, you know, black people have been there that would be nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah,
now, while that could be racist casting, I would argue that that's not the Oscars' fault. No, that's you know, casting
like in La La Land,
director's
you
fault.
didn't see a black character playing a main. Just saying.
No,
you know, so like, I wouldn't say that's the Oscars, and I wouldn't say that's people in general. That's just casting. They just don't. I wouldn't say they're racist. Maybe they just didn't feel a black character would work. But I think that should then be scripted. Like, they should make characters be able to be more diverse and be able to be.
well, quite right.
You know,
Yeah,
that's not...
a lot of things with public storytelling, and you know, I'm a creative writing student, so I write a lot of stories, as I have to for my course, and also in my spare time. I'm currently working on a novel, but one thing that I always add is I like to write in first person, so it's always I, me, and things like that. And something that my classmates have picked up on is I never actually specify who I am. So quite often the gender of my character is unknown, as well as the ethnicity, and I think that's quite important for a modern society, because I believe that, like, the way stories are told is it's about the story you're telling, not who is telling the story. If you've got a big political statement to make, saying that, I don't know, okay, I can't think of anything right now, but if you've got a real big political statement to make, it doesn't matter who stands up and makes this statement, as long as someone does. And so I totally agree with what you're saying. I think that more films need to look at their cast and go, hang on a minute, does it actually matter that this character is white? If we change this character to be a black character, does that affect anything?
Yeah.
9 out of 10, no, it won't. What a lot of people are scared of is their backstory changes. If their character's black, then they have to come from Africa and things like that. But that's not true anymore. Quite often, I say quite often, again, 9 times out of 10, people are born in places like England, and they are black, they are Muslim, they are Asian, and they are still English. You don't have to go with a stereotype. Just because you're having a black character, it doesn't make them African. It doesn't make them, that their backstory, they then have to be from a really rural place in Nigeria and they came over on a door. It doesn't need to be like that anymore. Go back 40 years, basically, yeah, any black person you saw on TV was a Muslim or was Sikh, and they were from Africa or India or, Middle Eastern places, and that was their backstory. But
I think something that's definitely made the world open their eyes, really, and that's accepted blacks and things like that a lot more is actually YouTube. I think a big example is KSI. He's got, I think, 12 million subscribers.
Yep, something around that. Yep, I think it's actually more than that now, but yeah.
Yeah, it might be at 15 for all I know. I don't know. I think it's a lot more. Movies have been tailored now. I think there's too many. This may come off a bit wrong, but I think there's too many directors now living in the past. Now, there's not really any good up and coming directors from my knowledge. Not like newer ones.
Not new ones, no. There's a lot of good directors out there and doing stuff, but
you've got your Michael Bays and shit with the explosions, but
every Michael Bay film is just an explosion. It's an explosion with a voiceover. That's it.
Just I don't think there's enough young, newer actors coming through because not actors, directors. Sorry, there's enough young actors. Trust me.
Yeah.
I don't think there's enough younger directors that are actually adding in the diverse things because a lot of the actors are living in the past and they don't want to test out a new thing because they know what works for them. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people are a lot of people aren't going into directing anymore. I don't know if you've noticed that, but a lot of people don't.
No, you are correct. A lot of people prefer to be in front of the camera rather than behind it.
Yeah, I'd rather be behind it because, well, I don't know. I enjoy being in front of the camera. Don't get me wrong, I love being in front of the camera. But if it came down to doing a movie, I know that I'd do a better job if I was picking the angles of the camera, picking the scenes. I reckon I could make music videos for fucking things because I sit here sometimes, I listen to a song and I'm like, wow, that music video is utter shit for what the song actually means. So that could be something I could probably do as a hobby or something. I don't know, but I don't know. I just think a lot of things just.
You're quite right. There are nothing. Yeah, and what I think one key thing on this is there's not a lot of new content coming through. If you think a lot of things now are remakes.
Same old shit, just getting
redone, it's become very very popular now just to remake old films. And there's not a lot of actual new films coming out. And, one key example of this, if we just look at the new universes that are being created within film, if you think you've got things like the Dark Universe, you've got the Marvel Universe, you've got DC and things like that. Now, all the characters in these universes are from 80 to 100 years ago. All right, not that far. A lot of most of Marvel's characters were made during World War II. But by Stan Lee and people like that, a lot of them were made just after World War II or during, in the aftermath, by Jewish writers. The creators of the Marvel comics were Jewish, and essentially one of the key points of these superhero comics and why they existed was the Jewish people writing stories about, you know, strong, independent people to inspire people after war. That was the reason why they exist. And obviously these characters are now being made into film. And so we've now got a whole new section of film coming out, and shock horror, they are white people because of when they were created. Now, obviously, an exception to this recently is the news of the Black Panther movie, which is going to be Marvel's first black-led film. And they've released some shots of filming and things like that, and it is heavily a black film. And it's because, shock horror, Black Panther is from Wakanda in Africa. So obviously we're still seeing these stereotypes coming through.
But
are they necessary?
I understand why that stereotype's coming through. That makes sense, and that's where the Black Panther's from. But I definitely think they're taking a step in the right direction. You know, they've got Falcon.
Yep.
He's black.
He is.
Well, would people call him mixed?
I believe Falcon is actually mixed ethnicity, but you know, the point remains.
Side, if that makes sense.
Point remains, he's not white. So,
I think, come to think of it, they still lack an Asian person.
Well, you say that. There's I don't think you've seen Doctor Strange, have you?
I have, yeah.
You have Wong in Doctor Strange.
Well.
Now, I would argue he's not a main character, but I would argue one of my favourite things about Doctor Strange was Wong. I loved Wong, and me and all my friends, when the cast for Infinity War came out, we were flicking through, and we were like, yeah, Iron Man, Thor, Wong! And we were so excited that Wong is going to be in Infinity War, because we loved Wong. And in Spider-Man Homecoming, which you haven't seen, have you?
No, definitely not.
Spider-Man Homecoming, Peter Parker's best friend is a chubby Asian kid. Now, again, he is hilarious in that film, and you get a rough idea of how funny he is in the trailer, but obviously they saved the best bits for the film. But one thing I am now noticing is that it has now become a popular thing for Asian characters to be chubby clowns, essentially. They are to be laughed at, and I can't really decide if it's good that they're introducing more Asian characters, or if it's now borderline racist because they're only there for comedy purposes. You know, we don't have an Asian superhero. We've got female superheroes. We've had female superheroes for quite a while. You know, we've had the Wonder Woman TV show, you know, that was going around in the, I think it was the 60s or the 80s, I can't really remember, I wasn't alive.
I think it was the 70s, mate.
It may have been the 70s, I don't know.
I'll Google it now if you want.
Alright, thanks. It was around that time anyway. So yeah, you've had, you know, Wonder Woman, you've got the new Wonder Woman film, although I'm going to talk more about the Wonder Woman film in a different video, guys, because I've got a lot to say about that. So you've got the Wonder Woman film, but also you've got Black Widow, which is, she's just a boss, let's be fair, you can't argue, you know, she's got no superhero abilities at all, yet she's still one of the Avengers, and she's still a badass. So you've got people like that. You've now got Scarlet Witch, who does have superhuman abilities, and granted she's a bit, you know, she's a bit on the iffy side. Yes, when?
1975 till 1979.
70s, perfect, you're right.
Yeah, there we go.
But yeah, so you've got Scarlet Witch, which granted she's a bit on the iffy side, you know, she's got some personal problems, things like that, but it's nothing to do with her being a female, which is good.
That's to do with her.
Yeah, it's more to do with her raising, because, you know, she was made basically in a lab, and she was raised in a prison cell. That, you know, it's got nothing to do with the fact she's a female.
And passing of her brother as well, you know.
Yes, of course. So we're seeing a lot of female characters, we're seeing a lot of black characters, but now, where are the Asians? You know, I want a rise of Asians.
See, the only thing that I'm disappointed about, I think, I don't have anything against Benedict Cumberbatch.
Benedict Cumberbatch.
Yeah. I think he's a brilliant actor, but I think Doctor Strange was their chance to put an Asian character in.
Oh, would you have liked an Asian Doctor Strange?
Well, I think that was their chance. It's based in an Asian country. You know?
Yeah, but but the only reason it's based in an Asian country is because it's meant to be an American goes to the Middle East looking for help. I think that if it was, I said Middle East to Asia. Yeah, but if Doctor Strange was Asian, then it kind of defeats the whole. He has to go on a journey.
I mean, I think they missed their chance on making another major big player in the Doctor Strange film. Obviously, they got Wong, right?
Yeah.
Understandable, but he's not a major.
No. I see that.
Strange as a major.
Yeah.
I think they could have made another major in that film, a bit like what they're doing with Ant-Man.
Yeah.
They've got Falcon. Wasp. Wait,
Wasp. The Wasp. Yeah, the Wasp.
Wasp. Yeah. The Wasp is somebody that I don't think it's going to be in the first Infinity Wars, is it?
No, Wasp won't be in First Infinity.
This on the Ring of Druids podcast. But.
Yeah, just on that note, there's going to be a link to the Ring of Druids podcast below, guys. And in that podcast, we talk a lot about Infinity War. There is going to be another version of that podcast on this channel. We're going to re-record and focus more about specific things in Infinity War. But you can go check that out below.
But I'm pretty sure that was that's after Infinity War, so
it is, yeah.
It's between, so we know that, but still, they could have done something like that. They could make a sub character that can become a major, like Wasp. They could have done that in Doctor Strange.
They can still kind of do that with Wong. There has been some theories circling online that the reason why Wong is going to be in Infinity War is because Wong is going to step up as a sorcerer, because obviously Wong does have sorcerer abilities, and he is going to step up as a larger character when some of our current main characters die off, essentially. Some people are even wanting Wong to become the next Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange to be more of an Avenger than he is a sorcerer, because obviously the idea of Doctor Strange is he guards the multiverse, and so the Avengers control what's happening on Earth, the Guardians control space, Doctor Strange controls the multiverse. But there's rumours that they want Benedict Cumberbatch to essentially ditch the Eye of Agamotto, so ditch his whole idea of being part of the multiverse, become an Avenger, look after Earth as it is, and then Wong is going to look after the multiverse. And the reason why people are saying this is the after credits for Doctor Strange, where obviously we saw, I can't think of his name, but we saw that other sorcerer go and take away someone's magic abilities, and he says there's too many sorcerers. So there's the idea that Doctor Strange 2, or the next time we see him, is that Doctor Strange is going to be looking after the sorcerers on Earth while Wong guards the multiverse, which means Wong could become a much larger character.
Yeah,
but it's rumor,
because I feel they not messed up, but I feel
missed an opportunity.
Their opportunity to have gotten a main character out of that to be Asian was Doctor Strange, because it was an Asian-based country. Now, Wong is a very strong character that can become a major.
Yeah, easily. And everyone loves him.
Become a major. Yeah. But
I think the idea of...
everyone loves him too much, not as a major.
I see what you mean, yeah. He's become a sidekick.
Yeah.
And we don't know if we'd want him.
A bit like the fat chubby kid in Homecoming.
Yeah.
Everyone finds him funny. I feel like everyone loves Wong, but I don't think people love him in the way make him a major because he'll be really good. I think people make him a major because we want to see a film on him because he's funny as fuck. But
I think this is why Doctor Strange 2 hasn't been announced yet, because I think that what's going to be seen about it is I kind of got a Jar Jar Binks idea from Wong, in the sense of he's meant to be there as quite a comedy character, but Marvel don't really know if people are going to like him yet. Now, obviously, no one liked Jar Jar Binks. I personally adore Jar Jar Binks, and I was gutted that he kind of not died off, but basically did. But I think that now Marvel have looked at it and they've gone, right, people do like Wong, and I think that's why they went for a similar idea in Homecoming, just to kind of say, we're just double checking the public like this sort of character. I think that now they know that we do like these sorts of characters. We do like these comedy fat Asians. It's going to sound really bad, but we do. I think that now they're going to start to grow it.
I think it's a very relatable thing, though. I think they took the idea.
We all have a chubby fat Asian inside of us. Let's be fair.
Yeah. But I think they kind of they nicked the idea a bit from The Hangover. Because they've got...
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah.
I think
I've never known his name, but I know you're talking about.
The comedy side of it. And I think that's what it could have been inspired from. Not stole, but I think that could have been a little bit of inspiration.
Yeah. But, no, I would definitely agree. I think that, Asians for comedy is a very, prominent thing in Western culture. And I think the reason why it's kind of there is because it's totally their culture. The Asian culture is totally different from Western culture, which makes them funny. Well, yeah, you would know. You have your father's in Japan and you visited Japan.
I've been there. Yeah. It is completely different.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what makes it funny. It's because when you insert someone from the Eastern culture into Western culture, things are so totally different. They don't really know what's going on. And it's kind of like a "you been framed" type comedy in the sense of we're laughing at them because they don't understand, which is a bit bad. But the way that they're written in is that they learn from it. Like if you think we laugh at Wong because like the whole Beyonce Adele situation. What's your last name? And he's like Wong. And so it's like, oh, so it's a, like Adele, Beyonce thing. And he didn't know who they were because he's from the East. And, that's quite a funny thing. Because to us, you're like, oh, how do you not know who Beyonce is? We're not laughing at them, but it's like an ironic comedy. And I think Marvel have now realised that we like these characters. And so I think Wong could definitely become a much bigger character soon.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how they play.
I'm really looking forward to it as well. I think that definitely the move from Doctor Who being to female is going to spur something in the media publicly, and I'm quite excited for it.
I think Doctor Who have definitely done what they did at the exact right time.
They have, yeah.
Because obviously this has come out, they've just put a female Doctor in, and now it's come out about the BBC announcing the paid actors. I think it's just played perfectly into Doctor Who's hands.
It has, yeah.
Because there's probably going to be a whole, feminist rebellion and shit coming up. And then they'll just be like, well, believe it or not, we've just casted our first female. And then they'll be like, oh my God, we love it. Like, it could have been a publicity stunt, but I guess they didn't know what was going to happen. I think it was just luck of the draw, really. But definitely, I'm looking forward to all of these ideas.
Me too. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Can I just thank you, Brogan, for joining me in this wonderful little podcast here, talking about gender and racism in the media. Really appreciate it. Obviously, your knowledge on Doctor Who did help out greatly, and you're quite a controversial person because you're a bit of a knob. So I've appreciated your opinions. It's been great having you.
It's all right, man. Anytime if you ever need me on any other podcasts,
I'll definitely be taking you up on that. But I think you need to improve
expand my Marvel knowledge.
Yeah, expand your Marvel knowledge. Possibly delve a little into.
I don't really have a cinema, right around the corner.
Well, that's true.
I've got to get on a bus or a train, mate, to go to the cinema. So
see, I'm literally a 5-minute drive from my cinema, and I've got my limited car.
I'm a 30-minute drive. So
yeah,
and I can't drive yet.
Of course, yeah.
So.
But no, it's been great having you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you too, Matt.
So, like I said, guys, you can go check out the Infinity War podcast again with Brogan. The link to that will be below. That's on the Ring of Druids channel. Ring of Druids is a server that me and Brogan run. It's a gaming group for YouTubers, and we currently offer several Minecraft servers to them. And we've actually got applications open right now. So if you guys are any of you interested in Minecraft and YouTubing, go check it out. If not, just go listen to it for our ideas on Infinity War. As I said, there's going to be a couple more videos popping up on this channel. We are going to speak more about Infinity War pretty soon. I'm also going to be doing, possibly on my own, if not, I might find a guest to come join me, but I'm going to be talking about Wonder Woman a lot soon, because there's a lot to be said about that. And then also we've got some other topics that are going to be thrown around. If any of you guys do have any ideas of anything you want us to talk about or to cover, do let me know. And if any of you want to be involved in a podcast, just let me know and I'll be more than happy to speak to you. But that's all from me. Any last word from you, Brogan?
No, not really. I haven't really got anything else to say. I don't know.
Beautiful. Right, thank you very much, guys. Have a great day.